The rain fell hard on the empty streets of Seoul's old industrial district. Minho Kim pulled his jacket tighter around his thin shoulders as he walked between the abandoned factories. His glasses were fogged with water, but he did not care. This place was quiet, and quiet was what he needed. At 17, Minho was the kind of boy that other students ignored at school. He was too smart for the popular kids and too shy for anyone else. His only friend was Yuna Park, who lived next door to him. But even Yuna did not understand why Minho loved to study alien life forms so much. 3 years ago, Earth had made contact with beings from other worlds. Most people were scared or excited. Minho was fascinated. While other teenagers played games or watched videos, Minho read every report about alien biology that he could find. His father, Daeho Choi, worked at the Interspecies Relations Bureau and often brought home classified documents. Minho was not supposed to read them, but he did. Anyway, today, Minho carried his modified scanner in his backpack. He had built it himself using parts from old medical equipment and alien technology samples that his father had accidentally left at home. The device could detect alien life signs from a distance of 50 meters. So far, it had only found Earth, animals, and some alien plants that had been imported legally. The industrial district was perfect for testing his scanner. No one came here anymore. The factories had been closed for 20 years, and the government had not decided what to do with the land yet. Broken windows stared down at Minho like empty eyes. Rust covered everything metal, and weeds grew through cracks in the concrete. Minho stopped walking when his scanner made a soft beeping sound. He pulled out the small device and looked at its screen. The reading was strange. It showed an alien life form, but the energy pattern was unlike anything in his database. The signal was weak, which meant the creature was either very small or very sick. Following the signal, Minho walked deeper into the district. The beeping grew stronger as he approached a large factory building. The front doors were chained shut, but Minho found a hole in the fence around the back. He squeezed through and entered at the factory yard. Old machinery stood everywhere like metal giants frozen in time. Some pieces were as tall as houses. Others were small enough that Minho could step over them. Everything was covered in a layer of rust and dirt. The scanner led him toward the center of the yard, where the biggest machines were located. Then, Minho saw it. Chained to a piece of broken equipment was a small creature that looked like a cross between a wolf and something from another world. It was about the size of a large dog, but its proportions were all wrong for an earth animal. Its legs were too long, its head was too narrow, and its ears were pointed like triangles. The creature's fur was silver with patches of deep blue, colors that no earth wolf had ever possessed. But what made Minho's heart race was the condition of the animal. It was barely breathing. Its ribs showed through its fur, and dark stains covered its body. The chains around its neck and legs were not ordinary metal. They had a strange glow and seemed to pulse with their own energy. Minho approached slowly. The creature's eyes were closed, and it did not react to his footsteps. He knelt down about 2 meters away and activated his scanner for a detailed reading. What he saw on the screen made him forget to breathe. The creature's neural patterns were completely alien, but they were also incredibly complex. More complex than any alien species that Earth had encountered so far. The readings showed brain activity that suggested high intelligence, possibly even higher than human intelligence. But that was not the most shocking discovery. Mixed in with the alien DNA, Minho's scanner detected genetic markers that seemed familiar. He ran the data through his comparison database 3 times to make sure he was not making a mistake. Each time, the result was the same. The creature's genetic structure contained elements that matched ancient DNA samples found in Earth's geological record. DNA that was millions of years old, from before humans had evolved. DNA that scientists had never been able to explain. Minho moved closer to the creature. As he did, one of its eyes opened slightly. The eye was large and golden, with a depth that seemed almost human. The creature looked at Minho for a long moment, and Minho felt something strange happen in his mind. It was like hearing a whisper, but not with his ears. The whisper seemed to come from inside his own thoughts. "Help me!" Minho blinked hard and shook his head. He must have imagined it. Animals could not speak directly into human minds. Even the alien species that Earth had met did not have that ability, but the creature was definitely looking at him with intelligence. Its golden eyes followed Minho's movements, and there was something in them that looked like hope. Minho examined the chains more carefully. They were definitely alien technology, but not from any species he recognized. The metal was dark and smooth, and strange symbols were carved into its surface. Most importantly, the chains seemed to be doing more than just holding the creature prisoner. They were connected to its body at points along its spine and skull, almost like they were interfering with its nervous system. The creature tried to lift its head, but the effort seemed to cause it pain. It made a soft sound that was part whimper and part something else entirely. The sound went straight to Minho's heart. He could not leave this creature here to die. Minho pulled out his phone to call his father, then stopped. If his father knew about this, the government would take the creature away. They would want to study it, possibly hurt it more than it was already hurt. The alien would become just another specimen in a laboratory. Looking at the creature's eyes again, Minho made a decision that would change everything. He was going to save it himself. The rain continued to fall as Minho began examining the chains, looking for a way to free the mysterious creature. He did not know that his scanner had just detected something else. Deep in space, something had noticed the creature's location. Something that had been hunting creatures like this one for a very long time. Something that was now heading toward Earth. Getting the creature home had been the hardest thing Minho had ever done. He could not break the chains with normal tools, but his scanner had detected weak points where the alien metal was damaged. After 2 hours of careful work with a laser cutter he had built for his science projects, he managed to free the creature from the machinery. The animal was heavier than it looked. Minho had to carry it in a large bag, pretending it was equipment for school. His father was working late, again, and his mother had died when he was young, so no one was home to ask questions. He brought the creature down to his basement laboratory, a place his father rarely visited. Minho had turned the basement into his own research space over the years. Tables covered with electronic equipment lined the walls. Computer screens showed data about alien species from around the galaxy. Medical supplies that he had borrowed from his father's work sat in careful rows on shelves. He placed the creature on a soft blanket and began examining it more closely. The chains were still attached to its body, but they were no longer connected to the heavy machinery. Under better light, Minho could see that the creature was even more beautiful than he had first thought. Its silver and blue fur was soft, despite being dirty. Its face was narrow like a wolf, but its features were more delicate. The creature's paws had an extra digit, almost like a thumb. Most amazing were its eyes, which seemed to hold an intelligence that was both alien and somehow familiar. Minho carefully cleaned the creature's wounds and gave it water through a small tube. The animal was too weak to drink on its own, but it accepted the help without fear. As Minho worked, he felt that strange whisper in his mind again. Thank you. This time Minho was sure he had not imagined it. The creature was somehow speaking directly into his thoughts. But how was that possible? Over the next 3 days, Minho spent every free moment caring for the creature. He told his father that he was working on a school project. He told Yuna that he was sick and could not hang out. He even skipped classes to make sure the animal was never alone for too long. Slowly, the creature began to recover. It started eating small pieces of meat and drinking water on its own. Its wounds healed faster than should have been possible. Most importantly, its golden eyes became brighter and more alert each day. On the 4th night, something amazing happened. Minho was sitting at his computer, trying to research the symbols on the chains, when he heard movement behind him. He turned around and saw that the creature was sitting up, looking directly at him. Its eyes were now fully bright and aware. My name is Navi. The voice in Minho's head was clear now, no longer a whisper. It sounded young, like a child, but also very old at the same time. You can really talk, Minho said out loud, his voice full of wonder. Not talk like you do. I share thoughts. My people have always done this. Your people. Minho moved his chair closer to the creature. To Navi, what are your people called? We are Lunari. We are the first children of this world. Minho felt confused. This world, you mean Earth? Long before your kind walked here, we lived in the forests and mountains. We were the guardians of this place. Images began to fill Minho's mind. He saw vast forests with trees taller than buildings. He saw creatures like Navi running in packs across grassy plains. He saw cities made of living wood and stone, where the Lunari lived in harmony with nature. But that was millions of years ago, Minho said. My scanner detected ancient DNA in you. Yes, we had to leave when the sky burned and the great cold came. Most of my people went to the stars. Some stayed hidden, sleeping deep in the earth. More images flowed into Minho's mind. He saw massive ships rising from Earth's surface, carrying thousands of Lunari to distant worlds. He saw others going into deep caves, entering some kind of long sleep to wait for better times. So you're not really an alien, Minho realized. You're from Earth originally. Navi's ears drooped sadly. I am the last of those who stayed. The others died over the long years. I was awakened when your people began reaching for the stars again. I hoped to find others like me, but instead, I found enemies. The chains, Minho said, looking at the strange metal still attached to Navi's body. Who put these on you? They call themselves the hegemony. They rule many worlds now, and they fear my people. They fear our gifts. What gifts? Navi stood up and walked to the center of the room. As Minho watched in amazement, small objects around the basement began to rise into the air. Screws, coins, and pieces of metal floated gently around Navi like they were weightless. We can touch the world with our minds. We can speak across any distance. We can feel the thoughts and emotions of others. The hegemony believes these powers make us dangerous. The floating objects settled back down to their original places. Navi looked tired from the effort. That's incredible, Minho breathed. But why would the hegemony be afraid of that? Because we cannot be controlled, we cannot be lied to or tricked easily. We value freedom and peace over power and conquest. This makes us enemies to those who want to rule others. Minho felt a chill of fear. Are they coming here? To Earth, Navi's golden eyes grew sad. I do not know, but these chains do more than just hold me prisoner. They block my abilities and send signals to my captors. As long as I wear them, I am like a beacon that calls to— Then we have to get them off you, Minho said immediately. It is dangerous. The chains are connected to my nervous system. Removing them wrong could kill me, but leaving them on will definitely bring my enemies here. Minho stood up and began pacing around the room, his mind racing. There has to be a way. Let me study them more. Maybe I can figure out how they work. For the next several hours, Minho used every piece of equipment he had to examine the chains. Navi helped by sharing memories of how they had been attached. Together, they began to understand the alien technology. The chains were not just metal. They were a complex system of circuits and energy fields that interfered with Navi's brain. But they also had a weakness. They needed to maintain a specific energy pattern to work properly. If that pattern was disrupted carefully, the chains would release automatically. I think I can do it, Minho said finally. But I'll need to build a special device to generate the right frequency. It will take time. Time we may not have. As if to prove Navi's point, Minho's scanner suddenly began beeping rapidly. He checked the display and felt his heart stop. The device was detecting incoming spacecraft, still far away but definitely heading toward Earth. How long until they get here? Minho asked. Navi closed his eyes and seemed to concentrate. 3 days, maybe 4. Minho looked at his equipment, then at Navi. Then we'd better get started. And I think it's time to call for help. Help? Navi asked, tilting his head. My friend Yuna, and maybe someone else who knows about keeping secrets. Minho was thinking of Taijin Li, a man his father had mentioned, who worked with alien refugees. If the hegemony is coming, we're going to need all the help we can get. As Minho began gathering the materials he would need, neither he nor Navi realized that removing the chains would do more than just free the young Lunari. It would awaken abilities that had been sleeping for millions of years, and send a signal across the galaxy that would change everything. Minho worked through the night building the device that would free Navi from the chains. His hands shook from tiredness and fear, but he did not stop. Every few hours, his scanners showed that the alien ships were getting closer to Earth. At sunrise, Yuna Park knocked on his front door. Minho had sent her a message asking her to come over immediately. When he opened the door, she looked worried and confused. Minho, you look terrible, Yuna said, stepping inside. You haven't been answering my calls for days. What's going on? Minho looked around to make sure no one was watching, then closed the door. I need to show you something, but you have to promise not to tell anyone else. You're scaring me, Yuna said, but she followed him down to the basement anyway. When Yuna saw Navi, she stopped walking and stared. The young Lunari was sitting on the blanket, looking back at her with his golden eyes. The alien chains still glowed softly around his neck and legs. Minho, Yuna whispered, what is that? His name is Navi, Minho said. He's not exactly an alien. He's from Earth, but from a very long time ago. Yuna listened in amazement as Minho explained everything that had happened. When Navi spoke directly into her mind to introduce himself, she nearly fainted. But she was a brave girl, and after a few minutes, she accepted the incredible situation. So these hegemony people are coming here to capture him? Yuna asked. Or kill him, Minho said sadly. They've been hunting his people for a long time. Yuna looked at the device Minho was building. And this will get those chains off him. I hope so. But even if it works, we'll have another problem. When the chains come off, Navi will be able to use his full powers again. That might send a signal to other Lunari who are still alive somewhere in the galaxy. Is that bad? Yuna asked. It could be, Navi said, in their minds. If my people receive the signal, they will try to come here to help me. But the hegemony will detect the signal too. They will know exactly where I am. Before anyone could say more, they heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy footsteps that did not belong to Minho's father. Government, Minho whispered, recognizing the sound of military boots. The three friends looked at each other in panic. Minho quickly threw a large cloth over Navi and his equipment. He motioned for Yuna to sit down at his computer and act normal. Minho Kim, a voice called from upstairs. This is Agent Jinwoo, on from the Special Investigations Division. We need to speak with you. Minho climbed the basement stairs on shaking legs. In his living room stood a tall man in a dark suit. Agent Jinwoo had short black hair and serious eyes. Two other agents stood behind him, their hands near their weapons. Agent Minho said, trying to sound calm. What can I do for you? We've detected unusual energy readings coming from this area, Agent said. Readings that suggest alien technology. Do you know anything about that? No, sir, Minho lead. I just do normal science projects for school. Agent studied Minho's face carefully. I see. Do you mind if we look around? Minho's heart pounded. Don't you need a warrant for that? Not when it involves potential alien threats to national security, Agent On replied. He nodded to his men, who began searching the house. From the basement, Minho heard a soft thud. One of the agents must have knocked something over. Agent On heard it too. What's in your basement, Minho? The agent asked. Just my workshop, Minho said quickly. I build electronics as a hobby. Agent On walked toward the basement door. Minho followed, his mind racing for a way to stop this. But when they reached the bottom of the stairs, they found only Yuna sitting at the computer. The cloth-covered area where Navi had been hiding was empty. Just me, Yuna said with a smile. Minho was helping me with a school project. Agent On looked around the basement suspiciously. His scanner showed traces of alien energy, but no active sources. After several minutes of searching, he seemed satisfied that nothing dangerous was there. We'll be watching this area, Agent On warned as he and his men prepared to leave. If you see anything unusual, report it immediately. After the agents left, Minho and Yuna waited 10 minutes before calling out softly. Navi emerged from behind a large piece of equipment where he had hidden. He looked exhausted from the effort of suppressing his energy signature while the agents were there. That was too close, Yuna said, breathing hard. It will get worse, Navi told them. The government suspects something now, and there are others coming who are much more dangerous than your agents. As if to prove his point, Minho's scanner began beeping again, but this time, the signal was different. Something had entered Earth's atmosphere. That's not the main hegemony fleet, Navi said, his ears standing up in alarm. That's a scout ship. A hunter. Through the small basement window, they could see a streak of light crossing the sky. The object was moving too fast and in the wrong direction to be a normal spacecraft. What do we do? Minho asked. We need help, Navi said. Real help. There is a human who works with refugees from the hegemony. His name is Taijin Li. Your father has met him. Minho remembered hearing that name before. The activist guy. The one who helps aliens hide from the government. Yes, he knows about the hegemony's hunting methods. If anyone can help us, it is him. Yuna was already on her phone. I can find him through my journalism contacts. Give me an hour. While Yuna made calls, Minho continued working on his device. Every few minutes, he checked his scanner. The hunter's ship had landed somewhere in the city. Worse, there were now energy readings that suggested the hunter was actively searching for something. How good are these hunters? Minho asked Navi. Very good. This one is called Houndsong. She has been tracking my people for many years. She can follow energy traces that are days old. She will find us soon. Then, we need to get those chains off you now, Minho said, even if it's dangerous. If you make a mistake, I could die, Navi warned. If we wait, we're all going to die, Minho replied. He attached the final components to his device and powered it up. The machine hummed softly as it began generating the special frequency that should unlock the chains. Are you ready? Minho asked. Navi nodded and lay down on the blanket. As Minho activated the device, the chains around Navi's body began to glow brighter. The young Lunari closed his eyes and concentrated. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the chains began to loosen. The symbols on their surface flickered and went dark. One by one, the metal bands opened and fell away from Navi's body. The moment the last chain hit the floor, everything changed. Navi's eyes blazed with golden light. Energy flowed around him like visible wind. Every electronic device in the basement turned on at once, their screens showing strange symbols and patterns. And somewhere across the galaxy, other eyes opened in response to the signal that had just been sent. But in Seoul, Hunter Houndsong smiled as her tracking equipment showed her exactly where her target was hiding. The hunt was about to begin. The basement exploded with activity as every machine turned on at once. Lights flashed, computers beeped, and sparks flew from overloaded circuits. Navi stood in the center of it all, his body glowing with golden energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Navi, you need to control it, Minho shouted over the noise. You're going to blow out the power for the whole block. Navi closed his eyes and took deep breaths. Slowly, the chaos calmed down. The machines stopped sparking, and the golden glow around his body faded to a soft shimmer. I am sorry, Navi said, in their minds. I have not felt my full power in so long. It is like learning to walk again. Yuna looked up from her phone with excitement. I found Taijin Li. He wants to meet us, but not here. He says this place isn't safe anymore. Before anyone could respond, Minho's scanner started screaming with alarms. Multiple signals were moving toward their location from different directions. Government vehicles from the north, and something else from the south that moved too fast to be human. We need to leave now, Minho said, grabbing his backpack and stuffing it with essential equipment. They climbed out of the basement just as military trucks appeared at the end of the street. Red and blue lights flashed as government agents surrounded the neighborhood. Back door, Yuna whispered, leading them through the kitchen. They slipped out into the backyard just as heavy footsteps pounded on the front door. Agent Jin Wuan's voice could be heard shouting orders to his men. This way, Minho said, pointing to a gap in the fence that he had used as a child. They squeezed through into the neighbor's yard, then ran through several more backyards before Reaching the street behind Minho's house, Yuna had called a taxi, which was waiting for them at the corner. Where to? The driver asked. Hongdae District, Yuna said. And please hurry. As they drove through Seoul's busy streets, Navi suddenly stiffened in his seat. She is close, he said urgently. The hunter, I can feel her searching for my energy signature. Minho looked out the back window and saw a black motorcycle weaving through traffic behind them. The rider wore a helmet that covered her face completely, but she moved with inhuman speed and precision. That's her, Minho said. Can you hide your energy again? Not completely, not anymore. Removing the chains awakened abilities that I cannot simply turn off. The motorcycle was getting closer. Yuna told the taxi driver to turn down a narrow alley, but the bike followed them easily. There, Yuna pointed to a crowded marketplace ahead. We can lose her in there. They paid the driver and jumped out of the taxi, pushing into the crowd of people shopping at the outdoor market. The smell of food and the sound of vendors calling out their prices filled the air. Minho hoped that all the people in activity would make it harder for the hunter to track them, but they had only walked 50 meters when people around them started running and screaming. Behind them, a figure in black leather pushed through the crowd like it was made of paper. The hunter had found them. Keep moving, Navi said. I will try to slow her down. Navi turned around and focused on the hunter. Suddenly, all the metal objects in the market began to shake. Pots and pans flew off vendor tables. Signs twisted and bent. Even the hunter's motorcycle, which she had abandoned at the market entrance, flipped over with a loud crash. But the hunter just kept coming. She moved like a dancer, avoiding the flying objects without even seeming to try. When a large metal table flew at her head, she ducked under it and kept running. She is too fast, Navi said. We need another plan. That was when a large man stepped out from behind a food stand and blocked the hunter's path. He was older, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and scars on his arms. The hunter tried to go around him, but he moved to block her again. Kungman, oh, the man said to himself. Time to see if retirement made you soft. The hunter finally stopped running and faced the man. She pulled off her helmet, revealing a woman with short black hair and cold eyes. This was Hound Song, the hegemony's most successful tracker. Human Hound said in accented English. Move aside, I have no business with you. Maybe not, Kungman replied, but I have business with you. What happened next was almost too fast for human eyes to follow. The hunter moved like lightning, but Kungman was ready for her. He had fought aliens before, and he knew their tricks. When she tried to hit him with superhuman speed, he was already moving out of the way. When she pulled out a weapon that looked like it was made of pure energy, he threw a market stool that knocked it from her hands. Run, Kungman shouted to Minho and his friends. I can't hold her forever. They ran through the rest of the market and into the subway system. As they waited for a train, Yuna's phone rang. It's Taijin Lee, she said, answering quickly. Change of plans, a man's voice said over the phone. Government forces are watching all my usual meeting places. But I have someone who can help you. Look for a woman with purple hair at Hongdae Station. She'll be carrying a laptop bag with a cat sticker on it. How will she know us? Yuna asked. Trust me, she know. The train arrived and they got on, sitting in the back where they could watch for followers. Navi kept his head down and tried to look like a normal teenager, though his pointed ears and strange eyes made this difficult. Who was that man who helped us? Minho asked. I do not know, Navi replied, but he has fought hegemony forces before. I could sense it in his mind. 20 minutes later, they arrived at Hongdae Station. The area was full of young people, street performers, and university students. They looked around for someone with purple hair and quickly spotted her sitting at a coffee shop near the station entrance. The woman was about 30 years old, with bright purple hair and multiple computer screens open on her laptop. She looked up as they approached and smiled. You must be Minho, she said. I'm Juan Nam. Taijin sent me to help you. How did you know it was us? Yuna asked. Juan pointed to her laptop screen, which showed security camera feeds from around the city. I've been tracking government movements all day. Plus your friend there has a very unique energy signature that shows up on certain types of sensors. She looked at Navi with curiosity but not fear. So you're the one causing all this trouble. The internet is going crazy with reports of strange energy readings and government raids. We need somewhere safe to hide, Minho said. The hunter almost caught us. Hunter. Jiwan's expression became serious. Taijin didn't mention anything about hegemony hunters being on Earth. There is more, Navi said, speaking directly into her mind. Juan jumped in her chair, then stared at Navi with wide eyes. Okay, that's new, and probably very important. Navi shared his memories with her, showing her the truth about his people and the approaching hegemony fleet. When he finished, Jiwan was quiet for a long moment. This changes everything, she said finally. We're not just dealing with one refugee anymore. This could be the start of an invasion. Or the beginning of Earth's freedom, Navi said. My people left technology hidden on this world. Technology that could help humanity defend itself. Jiwan closed her laptop and stood up. Then we need to find it. And we need to do it before that hunter finds us again. As they prepared to leave the coffee shop, none of them noticed the small drone watching them from across the street. Agent Jinwoo sat in his command vehicle several blocks away, studying their faces on his screen. Target acquired, he said. Into his radio, begin Phase 2 of the operation. The hunt was about to become much more complicated. Ji-won led them through Seoul's underground tunnels to a hidden base that Taijin Lee had built years ago. The place was filled with computers, weapons, and equipment from a dozen different alien worlds. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls, marked, with red zones where the hegemony ruled. Welcome to the Resistance, Ji-won said as they entered the main room. Taijin Lee was waiting for them. He was a thin man with kind eyes and gray hair. When he saw Na'vi, his face showed both wonder and fear. So, it's true, Taijin said, a Lunari here on Earth. I thought your people were extinct. Most of us are, Na'vi replied sadly. But there may be others hiding among the stars. Kungmin, arrived an hour later, looking tired but satisfied. That hunter won't be bothering you for a while, he said. But she's not giving up. And there are government forces searching every building in the city. Minho's scanner suddenly started beeping frantically. He checked the display and felt his heart sink. The main hegemony fleet just entered the solar system. They'll be here in less than a day. Everyone in the room fell silent. Through the underground base's communication system, they could hear news reports of strange objects appearing near Mars. The Earth Defense Force was scrambling their ships, but everyone knew they were not prepared for a real alien invasion. How many ships? Taijin asked. Na'vi closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, feeling for the approaching threat. 50 combat vessels, maybe more, enough to destroy every city on Earth. Then we need that hidden technology now, Ji-won said. Where is it? Na'vi looked troubled. The technology exists, but it was designed to work only with a Lunari mind. I am too young and too weak to activate it alone. What if you had help? Minho asked. You said your people could bond with others telepathically. Yes, but it has never been done with a human before. The process could kill both of us. Minho looked around the room at his friends and the adults who were risking their lives to help them. Outside, the world was about to face an enemy it could not defeat alone. I want to try, Minyu said. Minyu, Nuyuna said immediately. It's too dangerous. Everything is dangerous now, Minho replied. If we don't try this, everyone on Earth might die. Na'vi studied Minho's face. Are you certain? The bonding process will change you forever. You will never be fully human again. I've never been fully human, anyway, Minho said with a small smile. I've always been the weird kid who cared more about aliens than people. After much discussion, they decided to attempt the bonding. But first, they needed to reach the ancient Lunari site that Na'vi remembered from genetic memory. It was hidden deep beneath Seoul, in caves that had been sealed for millions of years. Using old city maps and Na'vi's memories, they found an entrance through the subway maintenance tunnels. Ji-won stayed behind to coordinate with other resistance cells around the world, while Taijin and Kungmin came with them as guards. The journey underground took 3 hours. They crawled through narrow passages and climbed down ancient stone steps that had been carved by Lunari hands long before humans existed. The air grew colder as they went deeper, and strange symbols began appearing on the walls. Finally, they reached a vast underground chamber. The ceiling was so high that their flashlights could not reach it. In the center of the chamber stood a circle of tall stones covered in glowing symbols. The stones hummed with energy that made everyone's skin tingle. This is it, Na'vi said with awe. The awakening circle. This is where my people prepared young Lunari for their first mind bond. Minho approached the circle nervously. What do I need to do? Stand in the center with me. The stones will do the rest. Na'vi paused. But Minho, I must warn you again. If this fails, the feedback could destroy both our minds. I understand, Minho said. Let's save Earth. They walked into the circle together. Immediately, the symbols on the stones blazed brighter. Energy flowed around them like a visible river. Minho felt a strange tingling in his head as Na'vi's consciousness began to touch his own dot at first. It was gentle, like two streams of water flowing together. Minho could feel Na'vi's memories and emotions mixing with his own. He saw the ancient history of the Lunari, felt their love for the Earth that had once been their home. But then the process began to go deeper. Minho felt his human thoughts being stretched and changed to accommodate alien concepts. His brain was learning to process information in ways that evolution had never intended. The pain was incredible. Minho screamed as his consciousness was torn apart and rebuilt. Beside him, Na'vi was going through the same agony as human creativity and adaptability flowed into his ordered Lunari mind. For a terrifying moment, Minho thought they were both going to die. The pain was so intense that he could not remember who he was or why he was there. Then, suddenly, everything clicked into place. Minho opened his eyes and felt the universe in a completely new way. He could sense every living thing in the city. Above them, he could feel the approaching hegemony ships, like dark spots against the stars. Most importantly, he could touch the sleeping technology that the ancient Lunari had left behind. All around Earth, hidden devices began to wake up. Defensive systems that had been dormant for millions of years started powering up. Ancient weapons that could destroy entire fleets emerged from their hiding places in the ocean depths and mountain peaks. "It's working," Minho whispered, but his voice sounded different now. It carried harmonics that no human throat should be able to produce. Navi stood beside him, and his eyes now held a spark of human determination that had never existed in a lunary before. "The awakening is complete. Earth's defenses are coming online." Above them, they could hear explosions and the sound of air raid sirens. The hegemony fleet had arrived and was beginning its attack. But this time, Earth was ready to fight back. "We need to get to the surface," Kung Min said. "The real battle is about to begin." As they climbed back through the tunnels, Minho could feel changes spreading through his body. His reflexes were faster. His mind could process multiple streams of information at once, and he could sense the thoughts and emotions of everyone around him. But the most amazing change was his connection to Navi. They were still two separate beings, but they could share thoughts and abilities instantly. Together, they had become something new, something that had never existed before. When they reached the surface, Seoul was under attack. Hegemony ships filled the sky, firing energy weapons at the city below. But Earth's newly awakened defenses were firing back. Ancient weapons shot beams of light that tore through alien hulls like paper. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was no longer fighting alone. The sky above Seoul burned with alien fire. Hegemony warships hung in the air like dark clouds, their weapons turning buildings to ash. But for the first time in the galaxy's history, their victims were shooting back. From hidden bases around the world, ancient lunary weapons rose from the Earth. Beam cannons that had slept beneath the ocean for millions of years broke the surface and began firing. Defensive shields, powered by technology beyond human understanding, protected the major cities. Minho and Navi stood on the roof of Taijin's building, their minds connected to every defensive system on the planet. Through their bond, Minho could control weapons that no human had ever imagined, while Navi gained the creativity to use them in ways his people had never tried. "The main command ship," Navi said, pointing to the largest hegemony vessel. "If we can destroy it, the others will retreat." Minho reached out with his enhanced mind and felt the ship's location. It was massive, almost like a flying city. Thousands of alien soldiers filled its corridors, and its weapons could destroy entire continents. "It's too well protected," Minho said. "We need to get closer." That was when Admiral Sun Ho Kong's voice crackled over the emergency communication system. "All Earth Defense Force units, this is Admiral Kong. We're launching a desperate attack on the enemy command ship. Any civilian pilots willing to join us should report to the nearest military base immediately." Kungmin looked at the chaos around them and made a decision. "I know where they keep the experimental fighters, the ones with alien technology that we captured last year. Can you fly one?" Minho asked. "Kid, I flew combat missions against pirates in the asteroid belt. I think I can handle Earth's atmosphere." They fought their way through the burning streets to a secret military base hidden beneath Seoul's subway system. The base was in chaos as pilots prepared for what everyone knew might be humanity's last stand. Admiral Kang was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes like steel. When she saw Minho and Navi, she almost ordered them to leave. But when Minho demonstrated his connection to the Lunari defense systems, her attitude changed quickly. "You can control all of Earth's hidden weapons?" she asked. "Yes, but I need to be closer to the enemy ships to coordinate properly," Minho explained. "Then you'll fly with us. We have a two-seat fighter that can carry both of you." The hangar was filled with sleek aircraft that looked like they were built from starlight and dreams. These were hybrid ships, combining human engineering with technology from a dozen alien worlds. The most advanced was a silver fighter that seemed to shimmer like liquid metal. "That one," Navi said immediately. "It has Lunari components. I can interface with its systems." As they prepared for launch, Kungmin appeared wearing a pilot's suit. "Thought you kids might need some backup." The launch was unlike anything Minho had ever experienced. The fighter shot out of the underground base and into the burning sky so fast that gravity became meaningless. Through the ship's sensors, Minho could see the full scope of the battle. Earth's defenses were holding, but barely. The ancient Lunari weapons were powerful, but they had been designed for a different kind of warfare. The hegemony had adapted their tactics over millions of years, learning to counter psychic abilities and energy weapons. "There are too many of them," Admiral Kang said over the radio. "We need reinforcements." That was when something amazing happened. Signals began appearing on the long-range sensors. Ships were approaching from deep space. But these were not hegemony vessels. "Those are Lunari designs," Navi said with excitement. "But that is impossible. My people's ships were destroyed long ago." Through their bond, Minho felt Navi reaching out with his mind across the vast distances of space. What he found there made both of them gasp in surprise. "They're not full Lunari," Navi said. "They're like us. Hybrids, other species that bonded with Lunari survivors over the centuries." The approaching ships were beautiful and strange. Some looked like they were grown rather than built. Others seemed to be made of pure energy held in ship-like forms. Each one represented a different alien species that had formed bonds with escaped Lunari refugees. "This is Captain Minjiu of the Hybrid Alliance," a voice said over the communication system. "Earth, we received your awakening signal. We're here to help." The battle turned in an instant. The Hybrid Alliance ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything the hegemony had faced before. They fought with tactics that combined the wisdom of many species, using abilities that the enemy could not predict or counter. But the hegemony command ship was still too powerful. Its shields deflected everything the Alliance threw at it, and its weapons were systematically destroying Earth's defenses. "We have to get inside that ship," Minho said. "It's the only way." "That's suicide," Kungmin said over the radio. "Maybe," Minho replied, "but I think I know how to stop them permanently." Through his bond with Na'vi, Minho had learned about the hegemony's greatest secret. Their power came from a massive artificial intelligence that controlled all their ships and soldiers. The AI was made from the absorbed minds of every psychic species they had conquered over the centuries. "If we can reach the AI's core, we might be able to free all those trapped minds," Minho explained, "and destroy the hegemony forever." "Na'vi," added Admiral Kong's voice was grim. "How do you plan to get inside the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy?" Minho smiled, and for the first time since the bonding, he felt fully human again. "We're going to do something completely crazy, something so stupid that they'll never expect it." He turned their fighter toward the command ship and pushed the engines to maximum power. Minho Yuna's voice came over the radio from the ground. "Whatever you're planning, be careful." "Don't worry," Minho said. "I've got the best co-pilot in the galaxy." As they raced toward certain death, the Hybrid Alliance ships formed up around them. Together, they dove toward the heart of the enemy fleet, ready to risk everything for the freedom of every thinking being in the galaxy. The final battle was about to begin. Minho's fighter screamed through space toward the hegemony command ship, dodging energy blasts that could vaporize entire buildings. Around them, the Hybrid Alliance vessels provided cover, their strange weapons carving paths through the enemy fleet. "The landing bay is too well defended," Kungmin said over the radio. "We'll never make it through." "We're not going through the landing bay," Minho replied. He guided their ship toward what looked like a solid wall of the command ship's hull. "Minho, that's solid metal," Na'vi said. "Not to us," Minho said with confidence. Through their bond, he had learned to see things that normal eyes could not detect. "There's a weak point in their shielding, something they never expected anyone to find." At the last second, Minho fired their weapons at a specific point on the hull. The beams hit ancient Lunari technology that had been built into the ship when the hegemony first conquered Na'vi's people. The old systems recognized the energy signature and opened a hidden passage. Their fighter shot through the gap and into the heart of the command ship. Alarms blared as they raced through corridors filled with shocked alien soldiers. Minho followed his enhanced senses toward the source of the ship's power. They crashed their fighter in a vast chamber at the center of the ship. As they climbed out of the wreckage, hundreds of hegemony soldiers surrounded them. But Minho and Na'vi were no longer just a human boy and a young Lunari, moving together like dancers. They fought their way through the soldiers using abilities that neither species had ever possessed alone. Minho's human unpredictability, combined with Na'vi's psychic powers, created fighting techniques that the enemy could not counter. At the center of the chamber stood something that made both of them stop in horror. It was a massive sphere of dark crystal, and inside it, thousands of faces pressed against the surface. These were the minds of every psychic being the hegemony had ever captured, forced to serve as parts of their artificial intelligence. "So many," Na'vi whispered. "They're all still alive in there, still suffering." "Not for much longer," Minho said. He approached the sphere and placed his hands on its surface. Immediately, his mind was pulled into a digital nightmare. Inside the sphere was a twisted version of cyberspace, where the trapped minds had been forced to merge into a single consciousness. The artificial intelligence that controlled the hegemony was not a machine, but the tortured remains of billions of psychic beings. "Free us," the voices whispered in his mind. "Please, free us from this prison." But the AI fought back. It had been designed to resist any attempt at liberation. Tentacles of dark energy wrapped around Minho's consciousness, trying to trap him in the sphere as well. That was when Na'vi joined the mental battle. Together, their hybrid consciousness was stronger than anything the AI had ever faced. Where the AI used force and control, Minho and Na'vi offered freedom and choice. One by one, the trapped minds began to break free from the artificial bonds that held them. As they did, the AI's control over the hegemony fleet began to fail. Ships stopped firing and hung motionless in space as their computer systems shut down. "What's happening?" Captain Minji asked over the radio. "We're giving them their freedom back," Minho replied. The process was not easy. Some of the trapped minds had been in the sphere for so long that they had forgotten their original identities. Others were so damaged by centuries of forced servitude that they could barely think at all. But Minho and Na'vi did not give up. Drawing on human compassion and Lunari empathy, they helped each mind remember what it had been before the hegemony captured it. They healed mental wounds that had festered for generations. As more minds broke free, something unexpected happened. Instead of simply escaping, many of them chose to help free the others. The liberation became a cascade effect that spread throughout the entire sphere. Finally, the last artificial bond snapped. The sphere cracked and shattered, releasing a wave of psychic energy that spread across the galaxy. Every hegemony ship, every control center, every slave world felt the moment when their oppressor's power finally broke. Minho and Navi found themselves standing in the empty chamber, surrounded by the crystal fragments of the broken sphere. Around them, hegemony soldiers were removing their helmets and looking around in confusion, as if waking up from a long nightmare. "It's over," Navi said with wonder. The hegemony is finished, but the victory had come at a cost. Many of their allies had died in the final battle. Taijin Li had been killed defending the underground base. Several of the hybrid alliance ships had been destroyed. Even on Earth, entire city blocks lay in ruins. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change in ways that no one had expected. The freed minds from the sphere returned to their original species, bringing with them knowledge and abilities that had been lost for centuries. Worlds that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves free to choose their own destiny. Earth became the center of a new galactic alliance. Not because humans had conquered anyone, but because they had shown that different species could work together as equals. Minho, once a lonely outcast, became humanity's first psychic ambassador, helping to negotiate treaties between species that had been enemies for millennia. Navi established a new Lunari colony in the mountains outside Seoul, where other survivors came to rebuild their ancient culture. But this new Lunari society was different from the old one. It incorporated human ideas about creativity and innovation, creating art and technology that neither species could have developed alone. Yuna became a famous journalist, telling the story of how friendship between two unlikely beings had changed the fate of the galaxy. Kungmin founded a new kind of military organization, one dedicated to protecting peace rather than waging war. And Agent Jinwoo, he became head of Earth's new Department of Interspecies Relations, working to ensure that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. 1 year after the liberation, Minho stood on the roof of his old school in Seoul, looking up at a sky filled with ships from a dozen different worlds. The city below was being rebuilt with a mixture of human engineering and alien technology, creating architecture that was both beautiful and functional. "Do you ever regret it?" Navi asked, appearing beside him. "Giving up your normal human life?" Minho smiled. "I was never going to have a normal life anyway. But this is better than anything I could have imagined." Through their bond, both of them could feel the minds of billions of beings across the galaxy, each one free to choose its own path. The loneliness that had defined Minho's childhood was now replaced by a connection to the entire universe. "What do you think happens next?" Navi asked. "I don't know," Minho replied, "but I have a feeling our adventure is just beginning." As if to prove his point, their communication devices suddenly activated. Captain Mingyu's voice crackled through the speakers. "Minho, Navi, we're detecting signals from beyond the galactic rim. There are other galaxies out there, and some of them might need our help." Minho and Navi looked at each other and grinned. The nerdy human boy who had once felt like he didn't belong anywhere had found his true home among the stars. And the baby alien wolf who had been left to die had become the key to freeing billions of enslaved minds. Together, they had proved that kindness, friendship, and the courage to help others could change the universe itself. The story of humanity's rise to galactic prominence had begun with a simple act of compassion, and it would continue with whatever challenges the vast cosmos might bring their way.